going to be a very interesting hour, validating many things we've been talking about secondhand and anecdotally for years and years, about the imposter-in-chief, the man occupying the Oval Office. Who is he? Who was he? And for the first time, someone who actually went to high school with this guy has stepped forward to tell her story of what it was like to be around Barry Soetoro, now Barack Hussein Obama, and what he was like for real, not as the fictional stories of his young years were laid out to tell us. Her name is Mia Pope. She is a remarkably courageous woman. She is a Christian, and she was on Pastor James David Manning's program, a week or so ago, and I was able to get that video, and I posted it for all of you to look at. And Pastor Manning was kind enough to set this up tonight so she could come on this program and speak directly to all of you. And I'm very grateful for that, Mia. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks, Jeff, for having me on. I'm happy to give the story. I think we as Americans, we need to get some clarity about some things, and I'm thrilled to be able to clear up what I am able to clear up. One thing, just to stipulate that I did not attend Punahou with Barry Soetoro. I was a girl in the neighborhood in 77, 78, part of 79, and I only ran across him during the summertime.
Sure.
When he would be out of school and I would be out of school.
Yeah.
So, just to be specific about that, because I'm hoping that other people from Punahou and in the neighborhood will pop up and substantiate some of this. So I don't want them to feel like, well, wait a minute, she didn't go to Punahou. But
what I meant to say, and I should have been more specific, was that you went to school at the same time in the same neighborhood and knew him that way, and that's fine. And maybe somebody from Punahou will step forward. First of all, let's talk just for fun about Punahou. He entered Punahou under very unusual circumstances, according to tradition. Did he not?
Yeah, that's right. The school is over 100 years old. It's an old missionary school, and it's one of very few in the country. I'd say a handful of preparatory type academies in the country. That's not only extremely expensive, but the admissions process is quite selective, and you might see some of these types of schools on the East Coast, and those familiar with that would maybe understand the incredible hoops that you have to jump through to get into these schools.
Yeah.
But one of the characteristics of Punahou, of which I'm aware of, is that they really will only take you from kindergarten. And there's a whole rationale behind that. In Barry Soetoro's case, from what, if we can believe anything, but he was supposedly, 10 years old, so that would put him at about the 5th grade, or maybe 11 years old in the 6th grade. They wouldn't want a student coming in at that age simply because a child that age would bring other influences, their experiences and that sort of thing. And, if you have a rogue kid in there, can kind of infect the other kids. So there's they have this kind of a philosophy where they really kind of prefer to groom you from kindergarten on.
Understand.
So, and there's a waiting list to get into that school.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of students. So if you figure that each one of those classes is full, so for Barry to have just waltzed into Punahou like that, and I'm just giving my testimony, and those who know Punahou, and I certainly know a lot of people there.
Yeah.
I've even had a couple of boyfriends that have come from Punahou, and it's really an unheard of thing. And so, if I'm just saying, I'll bet $1 that it has never happened before and it has never happened since. Now, that's my testimony.
Well, I would think you're quite right. I do know people who have gone there myself over the years, and they've described a similar profile. It's very expensive too, and these are 1970s dollars. What was it? What did it cost a month to go there?
Yeah, it was. Later, last time I heard a figure on Punahou was in the middle 90s, and it was about $900 for kindergarten at that time, a month.
That's right. Yeah,
and if I remember,
a month, folks, a month. Just so you get
so this is in 94 that I recall, because I had my nieces coming to live with me in Hawaii. And so I thought I might try to see if I could do some, because they were that age, 4 and 5 years old.
Right.
So I was pricing things. So that was the latest figure that I have. But remembering back in the day, I think it was something like, as much as $600 or $700 a month for even $70.
That's a lot of money. You can multiply that by 3, I'm sure, by now. So not cheap. Okay, so, the idea of Hawaii summer vacation, people hanging out. It's not a huge area. Everybody kind of knew everybody that was socially active, I guess, and that's how you got to know Barry.
Right.
You knew the fast lane types. You knew the socially mobile types. How would you describe his overall position in the young people's community? These are 15, 16, 17-year-old kids.
Yeah. He floated around amongst us. There was over 10 of us and less than 20 of us, interacting from, throughout. I didn't see Barry every single day, but I certainly still saw a lot of them.
So he was in your little peer group. You had a little peer group, and he was in that group. Okay.
Yeah, he was more, I'd say, on the periphery. Barry had a type of personality where he might have some acquaintance for a while, but he seemed to just either make that person mad at him, burn him off, or he just like today you see that usury type of personality. He was either, bumming money, bumming cigarettes.
Oh, he's a taker.
Something off of you.
He's a taker. Yeah.
And so what would happen is he would wear out that emotional friendliness. The reservoir of affection would easily dry up with him. So he would kind of float around a bit. And so I would say that Barry really wasn't a beloved member of our peer group. And another thing is even us kids, and we were naive kids basically, right? Like, knuckleheads like all, most teenagers. Mm-hmm. But even we could tell about his pathological lying, and he would just, he'd just tire you out.
Okay, so he'd come on with his charm, his flashy smile. I guess most of you were smoking a little bit of weed back then.
Oh, yeah. I've never done cocaine in my life, but I've definitely smoked and inhaled Pakalolo in the 70s, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I even held it in for a second or two before exhaling.
My goodness.
But,
right.
Yeah, I know. You definitely don't want to waste that stuff. Somehow I wound up staying out of the hardcore drug scene myself, and I don't know, miracle why that was the case.
Okay.
But it was all around me, and there were certainly people around me that did harder drugs.
Now, let's talk about Barry's sexual orientation then. Yeah. I understand that you and your peer group knew full well that even then he was at least bisexual, if not fully homosexual. How did you assay that, and what did your friends think of that in your group?
We're looking at 77, 78, 79. This is before AIDS. Gay was a raging concept. It was not really, it was like somewhat avant-garde, perhaps, to be gay. There was...
was it kind of cool?
It was kind of cool.
Huh.
It was kind of cool. If you think, I refer to the Studio 54 mentality type crowd, but yeah, it was cool. Remember, AIDS is the thing that put the wet blanket on the gay community.
Sure did.
And that hadn't happened yet.
No, it started in 76, 77 in the hepatitis B vaccine program, and that was... Yeah. Okay.
And we really didn't see the AIDS on the scene till 80 or 81.
That's right.
As far as, the diagnosable type, mystery of flu and so forth. But, and then remember that the crack wasn't invented yet, or at least it wasn't in the islands. So
no, people were snorting cocaine, but they weren't cooking it and smoking it as crack. That just didn't happen.
Didn't happen at that time, right. But there was a thing going on, it was called freebasing. And what they would do is cocaine was in the powder form, and so I guess obviously it's cut with something. Mm-hmm. And so it was a more intense high when they would take some baking soda and a little water and heat it up, and then the baking soda would adhere to whatever the thing was cut with, like lactose or whatever the heck they're cutting the thing with.
Yeah.
So it would give you like flakes of the actual pure cocaine. That's how you could separate the cut with from the real cocaine.
Little
and then
chunks.
they'd stick that in a pipe and smoke it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what Barry seemed to like to do. I'm not saying he never snorted. He may very well have, but I'm just saying.
Did you guys see him do this?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did see. I'm going back 36 years, 35
That's okay.
years,
We understand.
Years.
Yeah.
So I'm doing, but I recall Barry's lips used to get really dark. I mean, like 3 or 4 or 5 shades darker than the rest of his face. Now, there's a physiological reason for that. The cocaine residue restricts the blood flow to the tissue.
Uh-huh.
So when a person of color does that, the lips get
kind of purplish.
Darker.
Yeah.
Kind of purplish, right. Mm-hmm. And so I remember that, see, Barry's kind of convenient like that. He wears a sign for you when he's hitting the pipe hard. So I remember we could always look at him and go, Barry, hitting the pipe. Because there are times when his lips will be a relative similar color to the rest of his face.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's hitting the old pipe, his lips get really dark.
Looking at him now, Mia Pope, do you see evidences of cosmetic surgery to his nose or were his lips made any smaller? There's been talk about that.
Yeah. You know what I can tell you is that I think Barry has either had his teeth capped or had some veneers put on.
Okay.
Because his teeth weren't crooked, but
they weren't perfect like they are now. Yeah.
Right. They weren't that denture perfect like they are now. And if I recall, I think his incisors, that'd be like the equivalent of a canine.
Uh-huh.
I think they stuck out more. So I think that he's had some, at least what I can recognize is I think he's done something to his teeth.
All right. Well, that's not anything to damn anybody about in this day and age.
No.
Okay. He's a politician. He's a celebrity. And just, if you don't believe me, just ask him, folks.
Right.
Okay. So we have no question about drug use. None.
No,
marijuana, pot.
And then, I mean, he really was pretty open because remember, it was like a status symbol.
I got it.
If you were to obtain it, it meant you had money, you had cash. But we knew because of his bragging that he was actually getting with these other gay guys, homosexual men, and that's how he was obtaining the cocaine. Remember, he's broke like we are. He's bumming change to buy cigarettes or bumming cigarettes. Right? Yeah.
And yet he's got this coke. Okay, so
he's got the coke, right?
What were there other young gays in your group beside Barry, or was he pretty much it?
I'll tell you, you know how these circles, you have the people you usually hang out with the most. Like say there was 10, more than 10, less than 20 of us. And
sure.
Yes, there were some young gay guys, of which I got along beautifully with, as a female, right? Non-threatening kind of thing,
Sure.
And I was always like friends with the fat girls and the gay guys and that sort of thing, which, whatever. But, there was some gay, there was.
Was Barry part, did they hang out?
Experimentally.
Did they hang out together, the gays, Barry and the others?
Yeah, I saw Barry Soetoro get out of cars with older guys.
All right, that's where I'm going next.
I saw him cavorting with older gay men. There was a place on Kuhio Avenue. It's spelled Kuhio, Kuhio Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And it was located near where Hamburger Mary's is, so if any local people are listening, and that would be in Waikiki. There used to be a place. Now, at 14, 15, and 16, I still look like a baby, so you would have carded me immediately. I never could get into this place. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what it's called, but maybe some people from Hawaii can, jog my memory of what this place was called. But anyway, but Barry, he was already like 16, 17, and he would dress up in his little, funky disco, G-stringy looking. You've seen the pictures of him in drag, haven't you, Jeff?
Yeah. So he'd actually dress. He'd dress like that, and he'd go to this place and interface with these guys, and they were grown men.